Hey guys, it's Something Rush. Today we're going to be watching an absolutely phenomenal game played by Mex, that's what we're going to call him, in his AMX 13105. He's on the map Siegfried Line, and I chose this replay because Siegfried Line is a map that everyone has trouble with, and I figured might as well show some replays on that, learn how to play this map, and, that's the goal for this game. Now, the reason this game's cool is because this guy does nothing that I would ever do, and it works out, and so it's really interesting to see that, and, hopefully offer a different perspective on how to play this map when you're in encounters. So, he starts off by bringing his top tier light tank to D3. Now, D3 is one of those positions that you can take if you're looking to scout a bit. What you'll often find is if you take D3, someone will drive up to E2, like that T44-100 there, and steal your eyes. So this guy obviously realizes that he's not getting a lot of starting damage. He's only at 600, and he spots a Scorpion G who's basically sitting in the open and tracked, and he decides to shoot at the Scorpion G. Now, this is where he makes a play that I think is a bit of a mistake. He hangs around for 3 shots. That's a mistake that most people will make in their autoloaders. If you're in a situation where you're sitting in the middle of an open field and you're deciding to get lit, stick around for like 3 seconds at most. Don't try to clip someone out. Go for 2 shots and then just fuck off, because that's the way to, play it safe. He does that a couple of times, and that's something I've learned not to do. So, just get 2 shots into someone and then get safe, because by the time you're generally shooting 3 shots, people will start looking at you. So he returns to his bush after he gets unlit. That's an interesting play. Once again, it's something that I wouldn't do, because now the enemy TD players know that there's a light tank in this bush, and it's very likely that they're going to start pre-aiming this bush if he is consistently getting lit. So he decides to take a shot at the 4202. That's going to get him lit. He once again hangs around for more shots than I would have felt comfortable with. Luckily, he doesn't get spotted, but, in my opinion, he should have taken the single shot and then fucked off, because there's high risk of getting spotted and then hit by TDs. Now, shoots at the Oho. He just took multiple shots and didn't get lit, so shooting at the Oho and not leaving the bush is fairly reasonable in my opinion. It's at this point you'll notice people start to shoot at his bush. So he gets out of the bush because I guess he assumes he's lit or whatever, but you'll notice it's like he's not lit and that RU's trying to blind fire him. So that's one of the risks when you purposely get lit in a bush. People will start to blind fire you, and luckily that RU doesn't hit him, but that's something you have to be careful about. P44 Pantera sits in the middle of an open field. He puts shots. This is where, once again, in my opinion, he sticks around for way too long. He clips out that P44 Pantera, and if any of their camping TDs was in a position to shoot at him and paying attention, he would have been hit there, and that's just not a risk that's feasible to consistently take in a light tank. So in my opinion, he should have shot the Pantera twice, got safe, he clipped him out, it worked out. In my opinion, that's a mistake, but it's like, it is what it is. So here you can see that RU was blind firing at the bush. He wasn't blind firing at TDs behind him, because those are where all the shots have been hitting. You can see RU shooting through this bush to try to hit him. He looks for shots in the RU, and basically he's in a position where he can't. This is the right place. So this is where a lot of light tank drivers get fucked up, and this is where I would get fucked up right now. I would be looking at the map in this context, and I would see, well, tanks just got spotted at F0, and I would be inclined to move to the other side of the map to deal with the tanks at F0. Now, he obviously has a mini-map, so he probably knows there's tanks at F0 that he can shoot at. Instead, what he decides to do is he decides to hang around and camp out this RU-251. Now, I don't think this is a bad play. It's not what I would have done. I think going to C0 would have worked out really well to shoot those people at F0 in the side. His decision to stay in the field works out for him because he decides to leave his bush to move to another one, presumably. And this is where I think he makes another mistake that does... It's risky. So here's this WT who he spots, who's driving up through the middle of the open field, and he decides to stop and clip him out. Fair enough. What he can do is, if he backed up while he was shooting at this WT, he could put this tree in between himself and the WT, and actually he wouldn't get spotted by that WT as he clips him out. He does get lit, he doesn't get killed for it, he actually doesn't even take a single hit right there, but that's, something you can do to prevent yourself from getting shot. It's like, if he had just put that tree in between himself and the WT as he was clipping at the WT, he would have gotten the kill with way less risk to himself. So the WT dies, and this is where, once again, he makes a play that I would never have made, but it's understandable. Jesus, why does he zoom in so much? He decides to push the field, so he drives up to E2, and this is a good play. What it allows him to do, it allows him to put pressure on the people who are sitting in in the FV4005's position. If those guys fall back and if they try to push up the 5 line, he'll spot that, and he'll be able to put shots into and that's what this position allows him to do. He also spots anyone who tries to drive up the field, and by playing E1, E2, he effectively locks down the field for the enemy team. So once again, I would normally be up at C0 at this point, shooting at anyone who's on the 0 line, but by taking this position, he's able to pick off their T100 lightweight, who did not know that he was here, and now he's clipping. That's fair enough. He falls back because they know he's here, and it's kind of like, this is a play that I would never make, because he could be getting action shooting at that T-54 and shit. So at this point in time, he decides to hang around. There's nothing in the field, in my opinion, that he can do right now. So what he does is he tries to spot this RU-251, and this is kind of where he decides that there's nothing in the field that will continue to benefit him, and he is eventually going to go back to base, presumably to deal with that T-54A1 once he realizes that he's not getting shots on the two FVs who are sitting in F6 there. So he decides to fall back. He doesn't shoot at the... Jesus, we're just going to look. I'm going to control the camera here because he can't do it. He could potentially have a shot on the FE right here as he drives by, but he decides not to take that shot. I think that's a really brilliant play, because if he shot at the FV and got spotted, anyone who was camping in the city could have shot at him. And now he's putting himself in a position to shoot at the T-54. Now, I don't think the T-54 is what brought this guy back, and that's really interesting to me, because he's looking for shots on the FV. His default response was not to go hunt out that 54, and to me that's really weird, because I would think, why would you want a T-54 sitting in the bushes potentially flanking you? So he's here to suppress the FV, but his decision to come back was really useful. You can see the 54 is on the map behind him. He notices that kind of late, but it is what it is, and luckily he is in a position to flank that T-54, and once the 54 dies, he will be able to deal with the FV who he initially intended on shooting at. So he's going to go after the T-54, and once the 54 dies, he should, like, this is what you should do. Once you get a kill, or once the person you're engaging dies, you look at the map. So he's clipping right now. He has the opportunity to read the map, and if I was looking at the map right now, I would consider pushing down the 0 line. Fuck. I'm going to control the camera unless he's engaging someone. I would go down the 0 line right now, because he's reloading, and if you look at the map and you look at who's spotted on the enemy team, they only have a T10 unspotted, and if he could potentially get to here, he might be able to sway the game in his favor. Now this is where I think he makes a play that is better than what I would make. He decides to stay in this position, and this, it's really solid, because he decides not to be aggressive and he keeps himself alive, and that's going to effectively, well, you can see he's here in a position that is going to, it's designed to counter the FV. So if this FV4005 decides to push up the 5-6, he's in a position to deal with that. Now, by playing this position, he also manages to put himself in a position that allows him to deal with the field, and that's, I mean, it works out. They end up pushing the field. That's not something I would have predicted, but it is something that you could predict. It's fair enough. He puts a couple shots into SU-101, and he gets spotted, of course, so he's going to fall back. And the T-10 is also pushing the field. So in my opinion, this is a bit lucky, because he catches the T-10 out in a position that's completely retarded for a T-10 driver to put himself in. But because he decided to not be aggressive and not do what I would have done, which is to push the 0 line, he's able to catch this guy out. And it shows the value of being passive when you're dealing with puppies, because who would have guessed that the T-10 would have pushed field? I certainly wouldn't have. So his decision to be passive was great, because it did allow him to catch that T-10 out. Now they've got a one-shot SU-101 and one-shot T-10 and a, like, 900 HP RU in the field. And so he can now feasibly deal with that, because he was able to shoot them as they pushed retardedly through the field. Now, right here, he's going to decide to, it looks like he doesn't really know what he wants to do. I would think dealing with the city in this instance is the best, because he's got enemies in the field who aren't doing anything. His teammates are struggling in the city, dealing with the FV, the T95, and so on. So his decision to come over here, flank the T95, absolutely the right play. He's going to clip him out. Puts, I think he pens 3 shots right here. Yeah, he gets his 3rd pen right there. And now what he's going to have to do is he's going to have to clip. And by this point in time, you could expect enemies to start appearing on this ridge right here. So you can see the RU appears. The RU will take a shot at Mex right here, I think. Yeah, he does. He takes a shot. And this point, Mex is not reloaded. So he does the right thing. He falls back to C0. And from C0, he's going to have a lot of control on the fight. He's going to be able to engage the T95 if he wants to. And he can also engage the RU. So he goes after the T95, which I think is okay. He had no way of really knowing the SU-101 would have gone after the T95 in that context. He misses the shot because the T95 dies, which is fine, and he has to get out of here based on this situation. So he puts his last shot into the RU, fair enough, and now he's in this challenging situation where the RU is chasing him down, he's reloading, and if I was in this guy's position, I would assume the SU-101, the enemy SU-101 is kind of in A6 right now. So you can see the RU is running away. He's going to make a play that I think is really weird. He decides to, well, in this point, I would chase down the RU, but you can see he actually decides to fall back, and that puts him in front of the T10, who luckily misses. And now he's in, once again, C0, which is solid. And there you go, the SU-101, who, you know, it's reasonable to predict that he would be in this area, is in this area, and he's able to get the kill, and it's a good thing he was prepared for that. So yeah, the RU-251 dies to the SU-101, and now Max is in a position where he's got to deal with the T10 and the FV. He decides to take out the T10, which is great. Even if he had been shot by the T10, that would have been fine, because the FV, he's a one-shot for the FV regardless, and so, like, deciding to kill the T10 there was vital, and that probably saved him the game, because, like, when there's one enemy to deal with who's a TD, it's a lot easier to do that. So simply taking the hit, which is basically the play he made. You would assume he would take the hit in that instance, and killing the T10 was absolutely the right thing to do, and that's, you know, what I'd suggest you do in those types of situations. You want to kill people, right? And that's exactly what he did. So now Max is in a situation where he's in a 1v1 against an FV4005. This is where running away is absolutely the right thing to do. The FV4005 is in a position where if he chases the light tank, he's basically just going to be screwing himself over. So by falling back and sort of disengaging from the enemies, Max creates the opportunity for the FV to possibly get on cap. And so that's exactly what this type of play does, is it's to allow your enemies to get on cap. If the enemy is on cap, Max will know exactly where he is, and that, you know, makes it a lot easier, because you can approach resetting the cap from a variety of different angles. You know, you'd start off probably with C0, and then you'd work your way depending on if you could get resets from C0 or not. So he's driving around the map. You can see obviously the FV has not gotten on cap. I would wait until about 3 minutes, because the cap I think is 100 seconds, or it might even be longer actually. So like by now, if the FV is not on cap, he's not going to cap out, because Mex has given him plenty of time to do so. And so he's going to have to basically poke around the city looking for an FV if he wants to win. At this point in time, you would, like, I personally would rather him go, if I was in his situation, I'd be going for the win, not for the draw. So by poking around the city, he is playing for the win, and that's exactly what he should be doing. Now, he checks the cap circle. I would think the fact that the cap timer is not going down is evidence enough that the FV is not in this area, but he did drive all the way around the map, so for all he knows, the FV could have been in C0, so by poking the F0 corner, he was able to check that. So here, Mex almost flips himself, and that's the way it is. I would think if you're in a situation where you don't know where the enemy is, poking this corner would have been reasonable. It does expose you to these bushes right here, but, like, no one in an FV4005 is going to be sitting in those bushes, so it, you know, I think he could have checked that corner. It would have been reasonable. Driving across this lane quickly is a reasonable play. He stops just in case he got lit, which I think is genius. Because sometimes you'll drive across an alleyway, get spotted, you won't spot the enemy. So stopping to make sure Sixth Sense hasn't gone off is really smart right there. It's really precautionary, and that's exactly what he should do. And you can see what he's doing is he's circling the city. So because this is a city, and because of the way cities work in this game, by driving around the city, you're going to expose you. Basically, he's not putting himself at huge amounts of risks when he drives in front of these alleyways, because from the FV's perspective, the FV will just see a light tank drive in front of him. The FV won't have enough time to react, and so this type of play to try to figure out where the enemy FV is great. Now, he drives up to here. I would be a bit apprehensive about that, because the FV hasn't been spotted in the city. I would think, okay, maybe the FV is doing something retarded and sitting in like B0. You can see he's not, but, you know, that would be something I would be worried about, and that hasn't happened. So by this point, it's like, where the hell is this FV? Is he in the field, or is he deep in the center of the city? And he actually is going to be in the center of the city. So Mex checks that out. He's looking for the FV right here. This is where it becomes really dangerous as a light tank driver, because he's so close to the FV that if the FV could potentially just snapshot him. It's not like it's a 100-meter snapshot. It's like a 25-meter snapshot. So he spots the FV, and this is where we can watch him play. He decides to run away at this point, and this is really smart in my opinion. He's trying to, well, he zooms out enough so he can see where the FV's looking. The FV's like bad and looking at the brick wall, and this is where the FV starts to chase him down. So Mex is making he's doing the right thing right here. He's playing the corner game. He puts a shot into the FV. The FV decides to chase him down. He can always outrun the FV right here, so he makes sure the FV is forced to come around corners to put shots into him. And the FV, I mean, basically gets himself clipped out by a 13-105 right there. So that's how Mex won this game. We can go take a look at the end plates. I thought it was really well played, apart from the parts where he stood in bushes for way too long, but yeah, let's go take a look at the end plates. Alright, so that was a mastery badge, 9,400 damage, 6 kills, high caliber, and tank sniper. His team didn't do so great. He did come first place on the team. He got 1,500 base. No one on the enemy team really did anything comparable to what Mex did right here. He ended up firing 31 shots, 29 of them hit, 26 of them penned. He profited 53k credits. And yeah, jeez, that was a long replay. I'm losing my voice after that one, but I thought he did a good job. Apart from, like I said, clipping things out if you're in the middle of an open field, it's not a smart idea. But he did play well. And his decision to, I would have been way more active, and his patience is something to learn from, especially if you're on a map like Siegfried line, which is dedicated to pretty much heavies. Being patient, I think it's what worked out for him, because I would have been making plays that would have gotten me killed, and just his patience, in my opinion, is why this replay is noteworthy. I thought it was really well played. He did a great job, and yeah, I hope you enjoyed. If you want to see more of my videos, be sure to hit the like and the subscribe button, and you know, that's where I'm going to call the video here, because I'm bad at outros. Holy shit, I am stuttering. But yeah, thanks for watching. Bye for now.